Chosen one, the ground beneath your feet is shifting, and you feel it. Everything familiar is dissolving, and there's no going back to what was. Stop scrolling and listen closely. You didn't stumble upon this message by chance. Heaven orchestrated this moment because you're standing at the threshold of complete transformation. But here's what's haunting you. Why does letting go feel like losing yourself entirely? What you're about to discover will either terrify you into retreat or liberate you into the life you were born to live. This isn't just guidance. It's a divine interruption designed to shatter every limitation you've accepted as permanent. You are not here by accident. What's ahead in this message will expose exactly why God had to strip away everything you thought you needed. But first, the reason it feels so devastating is because you're still trying to carry pieces of a life that was never meant to be permanent. Your old identity isn't being attacked, it's being outgrown. The discomfort you're feeling isn't punishment. It's labor pains before your true self is born. This moment is charged with divine acceleration. By the end of this video, you'll understand why every door had to close and why the path ahead requires you to walk empty-handed. The shift isn't coming, it's here. God has been preparing something that will make your former struggles look like preparation, not punishment. Your breakthrough isn't waiting for you to change, it's waiting for you to release. Hit the like button as your first step of activation. It's not just engagement, it's partnership with God's message going out to those who need it most. Comment 5555 in the comments if you're ready for divine change and accelerated transformation in your life. Share one thing you need prayer for today in the comments. Then be a blessing to someone else by responding to their request with faith and love. When you share your prayer, others will intercede for you. When you pray for someone else, God moves in ways you never imagined. And to our faithful members of this channel, your commitment keeps this mission alive. May heaven reward you with grace, strength, and breakthrough. You know, there comes a profound and undeniable point in our lives where the very act of clinging to what feels familiar, to the comfort of what we've always known, surprisingly becomes far more of a danger, a greater risk to our soul's true flourishing than the courageous step into anything new or unknown. And if the words reaching your ears right now resonate with a deep hum in your spirit, I have a very strong sense that this is exactly the sacred, trembling threshold where you find yourself standing. You're poised right there on this shaky, trembling edge, an edge that feels almost alive with anticipation and apprehension. It's an exquisitely uncomfortable place, a bit like being caught in the powerful undertow between something that used to hold you back, a structure that once felt like safety but has slowly, imperceptibly transformed into a kind of gentle yet insistent captivity and an undeniable deep, strong pull, a sacred magnetism toward what you're truly meant to do, toward the very essence of your divine calling. It's as if a great river has shifted its course, and you, the tiny boat, must now navigate unfamiliar currents. That persistent ache you might be feeling deep inside, that unsettling sense of unrest that whispers to you in the quiet moments, or even that quiet, almost desperate yearning for something more. It's not just plain grief for something you've lost, though believe me, the tender pangs of loss are certainly woven into its fabric. No, what's truly happening, what's unfolding within the very depths of your being, is your spirit stretching, expanding, reaching out with an almost palpable longing for a different kind of life, a life that simply, beautifully, cannot be contained or fit inside the comfortable, familiar boundaries you've known and outgrown. It's an internal revolution, a gentle upheaval from the inside out. Think of it like a cherished plant that has undeniably outgrown its pot. Its roots, once snugly nestled, now begin to feel painfully constrained, coiling upon themselves, searching desperately for more. And the plant itself, sensing this profound limitation, instinctively begins to yearn with every fiber of its being for more space, more expansive soil, more nourishing earth, more boundless room to truly spread its roots, reach for the sunlight, and genuinely flourish into the magnificent expression it was always intended to be. This ache is not a sign of brokenness, but rather a powerful, undeniable signal of growth. What we often miss in the raw, immediate moments of these transitions, what we usually cannot perceive through the blurring tears or the sting of disappointment, is that every single one of these holy disruptions, those moments when our world feels as if it's being thoroughly shaken, when the very ground beneath us trembles and shifts, actually carries within its unsettling core a profound hidden mercy. It's a paradox, isn't it? Pain and grace intertwined. Think about it for a moment. When God, with a tenderness that sometimes feels utterly relentless, gently, or perhaps not so gently, removes what felt like your absolute safety net, the very thing you leaned on for stability, He's not doing it to punish you, to abandon you, or to leave you exposed and vulnerable forever in the harsh winds of uncertainty. Oh no, His heart is far too kind for such intentions. Instead, He's extending an invitation. He's calling you forth with a compelling divine summons, encouraging you to step into a wider space, a deeper knowing. He is inviting you to discover a strength you never knew you possessed, a resilience that lay dormant within your spirit, a deep well of courage that you genuinely had no idea was bubbling inside of you all along, waiting for this very moment to be tapped. It's akin to a fledgling bird pushed from the comfort of its nest, only to discover the exhilarating power of its own wings. You haven't, not for a single moment, lost what was truly necessary for the unique and sacred journey God has laid out for you. That simply isn't possible within His divine economy. What you have lost, or more accurately, what has been lovingly yet firmly taken away, is simply what couldn't actually go with you to the next sacred place God is taking you. It's a divine decluttering, a necessary stripping away of excess. It's profoundly akin to the wise act of clearing out old clothes that no longer fit, either physically or spiritually, that no longer serve the person you are becoming. Before you embark on a grand, new adventure, you inherently understand the need to create space, to lighten your load for what's coming, for the new landscapes and experiences that lie ahead. Just remember Abraham, a man who, in his twilight years, was asked by the Almighty God to pack up his entire life, to leave behind everything and everyone familiar, his beloved home, his cherished family, his entire culture in Ur of the Chaldeans, a place of deep comfort and identity. He set out for a promise he literally could not see, a land and a future that were completely veiled in the unknown. Genesis 12 tells us with such poignant brevity that he just went by faith. There was no detailed itinerary, no map, just a whisper and a promise. You, right now, in this very season, are being asked to step into a place, into a dimension of existence that only this kind of radical, absolute, unwavering trust will sustain. The natural, very human temptation, of course, is to get hopelessly stuck in the mourning of the broken pieces, to fixate on the ruins of what collapsed and feel nothing but overwhelming sadness, bitter regret, or even a sense of profound failure. Our eyes naturally gravitate to what is gone, but heaven, in its boundless wisdom, in its profound understanding of the larger story, is asking you to do something radically different, something incredibly powerful and deeply counterintuitive. It's asking you to bless the very foundation for what's now being built. It's an invitation to shift your perspective from what ended, from the dust of what crumbled, to what is bravely, beautifully beginning, even if you can't yet see the full blueprint. Even if the new architecture is still veiled in divine mystery. It's acknowledging that even in ruin, the very ground is being prepared for new creation. You know, some of the most profound, soul-altering breakthroughs we experience in life don't actually come when we're frantically searching for all the answers, tearing ourselves apart, trying to figure everything out with our limited human intellect. No. The real breakthroughs, the ones that shift the very landscape of our inner world, often arrive when we finally, utterly stop searching, stop striving, and instead begin to quietly, expectantly sit with revelation. It's about cultivating an open heart and a receptive spirit, being truly available to what God wants to show you, rather than stubbornly demanding an explanation for every painful detail, every twist of the plot. It's a posture of surrender, a deep listening. If that profound idea, that deep resonance within your spirit truly hits home for you today, then I truly believe the 10 Hidden Truths of Jesus Parables is your next immediate spirit-led step. It's a short but incredibly powerful ebook that takes the timeless yet often misunderstood stories Jesus told and brilliantly opens up really practical, spirit-led truths that can directly, tangibly impact areas like your finances, illuminate your journey toward holistic healing, and help you find profound emotional clarity in a world that so often feels chaotic, overwhelming, and utterly uncertain. The link is right there, nestled in the very first comment below this video. But please know, with a sense of gentle urgency, it's only going to be available for a limited time, a precious window, so don't wait. Allow this season of breakthrough to begin now. Now let's talk about some really practical, tangible ways to navigate this season of significant transition and deep transformation. First, and this is so profoundly important for your spiritual health, refuse to settle for explanations about your current situation that shrink God down to the minuscule size of your pain or the narrow confines of your human comprehension. When we're hurting, when our hearts are raw and our minds are swirling with questions, it's deceptively easy, almost instinctual, to start thinking, God must not care about me, or He's clearly not powerful enough to fix this impossible mess, or perhaps He's punishing me for something I did wrong. In those vulnerable moments, we inadvertently box Him into our limited understanding. We try to contain the infinite within our finite grasp. But God, the very creator of the universe, is infinitely bigger than our biggest hurts, immeasurably wiser than our deepest, most perplexing questions, and His love for you is more expansive, more unwavering, more deeply personal than we can possibly begin to imagine or conceive. Instead of desperately trying to make sense of everything from your own small, limited, and often pain-distorted perspective, make a conscious, intentional choice to remind yourself with every fiber of your being that His ways are always higher, His thoughts are always deeper, and His plans are always, without exception, for your ultimate good, even when they don't feel good in the moment, even when they sting with unexpected pain. Remember that profound, comforting truth from Isaiah 55:8-9, where God Himself declares with majestic authority and tender love, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." This isn't a cold dismissal of your very real pain. It's a boundless, open invitation to trust a much grander, more intricate story, a divine tapestry being woven that transcends your current sight. Along with that foundational truth, try to recognize the crucial, often misunderstood difference between simple loss and what God actively does through the sacred, purposeful act of pruning. Loss on its own feels inherently like subtraction. Something is irrevocably gone, severed from you, and you are left with less, with an empty space that aches. But pruning, while it most certainly involves cutting away, a deliberate removal of what appears to be part of the whole, is actually preparing the way for an explosion of new life, for a glorious abundance later on. It's a future-focused act. Think of a meticulous gardener who approaches a prized rosebush with sharp, intentional shears. It looks drastic, doesn't it? They're cutting off seemingly healthy branches, beautiful blooms, seemingly vibrant growth. But they do it because they possess a deeper knowledge, a wisdom that understands that by removing what's no longer serving the plant's ultimate health and potential, by getting rid of the dead or weak parts, or even the growth that would impede better growth, the plant will then channel its precious energy into producing far more beautiful, more vibrant, more fragrant blooms than before. John 15:2 reminds us of this profound spiritual principle. Every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. It's not an act of random destruction. It's a purposeful, strategic act of preparation for a greater, more abundant yield. So what feels like painful subtraction in your life right now, what feels like a devastating loss, might actually be a necessary, loving preparation, clearing sacred space for incredible growth, for a breathtaking harvest that you simply cannot yet fathom. Next, and this is a big one for all of us, who might be, shall we say, a bit of a control freak, surrender your desperate, tenacious need to understand the precise timing of everything. Oh, how our human hearts yearn to know when, to grasp how, and to fully comprehend why every single detail is unfolding as it is. We crave certainty and a predictable roadmap. But life with God, life in the rhythm of His divine plan, rarely unfolds according to our carefully planned calendars, our meticulously crafted timelines, or our neatly organized schedules. Think about Mary, the young, humble mother of Jesus. Her entire world, her entire preconceived future, her entire sense of identity changed irrevocably in an instant with just a few astonishing words from an angel. Luke 1:38 tells us her response was beautifully simple, yet profoundly powerful. "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." She didn't receive a full itinerary for her life, did she? She didn't know the ridicule she might face, the challenges of raising the Son of God, the sword that would pierce her soul. She just had to walk out her radical obedience, one unknown day at a time, trusting with every fiber of her being that the God who spoke the impossible word would also faithfully, miraculously make a way for it to happen. We too are called to embrace this profound trust in His perfect timing, even when it feels confusing, even when it feels agonizingly, unbearably slow, even when the silence from heaven feels deafening. He knows the end from the beginning. He holds all time in His hands, and He is always, without fail, precisely on time. Third, and this is probably the most uncomfortable one for many people, especially in our hyper-connected, noisy world, let silence do its holy, transformative work within you. We live in such a cacophonous, distracted world, don't we? We instinctively fill every quiet moment, every potential void with distractions. Our phones, constant music, endless podcasts, an unending stream of busy work. We are often, perhaps unconsciously, terrified of silence, because it's in that quiet, unfiltered space that our deepest fears, our gnawing doubts, our most buried anxieties and raw emotions begin to surface, demanding our attention. But it is also, paradoxically, the very place where God can speak most clearly, where His gentle whispers can finally be heard above the clamor of our minds. Remember Jacob? He wrestled all night long in the quiet, isolated darkness of Peniel, not with a physical person, but seemingly with God Himself, until the very break of dawn. Genesis 32 describes how he walked away from that encounter with a permanent limp, a physical reminder of his struggle, but also with a new name, Israel, and a completely transformed identity, a new anointing. What feels like agonizing isolation to you right now, what feels like a lonely and unsettling void, might actually be the sacred birthplace of your new identity, the quiet incubator for your new calling, the crucible in which your new self is being forged. Embrace those quiet, often challenging moments. Don't run from the discomfort. Don't fill the space. Instead, lean into it. Let God speak into the perceived void, allowing His profound truth to fill the silence, to reshape your understanding, and to bring forth new life. And speaking of those truly transformative, often challenging steps, coming up next, we're going to dive headfirst into the step that most people try their absolute best to avoid. It's the one that requires a deep, almost frightening level of vulnerability and courage, the kind that asks you to shed your armor. But I promise you, with every fiber of my being, it's the one that changes everything. It's the pivotal point. So, let's go there. Now you've got to confront that deep-seated, often subconscious fear that if you truly, utterly, irrevocably let go of what you're clinging onto, whether it's a specific outcome you're determined to manifest, a particular person you believe you cannot live without, a cherished dream that has now splintered, or even that subtle but pervasive sense of control you try to exert over every detail of your life, then absolutely nothing good will remain. That's a powerful, insidious fear, isn't it? It's a whisper that settles deep into your bones, telling you insidious lies, convincing you that releasing your tenacious grip means losing everything of value, that surrender equates to desolation. But I want you to know unequivocally, with every fiber of your being, that's the voice of the wilderness. It's the desolate sound of scarcity and despair, of what once was but is no more. It's not the resounding voice of the promised land, which speaks only of divine abundance, of boundless possibility, and of God's unfailing, faithful provision. The wilderness is a place of testing, yes, a necessary passage, a refining fire, but it is never, ever your final destination. It is merely the transition. Remember Elijah, that mighty prophet, filled with such fire and zeal for God? After his incredible, miraculous victory over the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, a triumph that shook a nation, he suddenly found himself utterly alone, running for his life, hiding in a desolate cave, completely despairing. He truly believed he had lost his purpose, that he was all alone, the last one standing, and that he had utterly failed God. He cried out to God, pouring out his heart, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they seek to take my life." 1 Kings 19:10. But God wasn't abandoning him in that cave of despondency. God was meeting him precisely in that place of raw despair, not to validate his fear or affirm his sense of isolation, but to gently, lovingly reset his perspective, to refresh his weary spirit, and to powerfully prepare him for his very next crucial assignment. Your cave of despair isn't the end of your story. It's often a sacred reset button, a quiet place where God meticulously realigns your vision for what's next, for the glorious path stretching before you. Next, you absolutely must, for the sake of your freedom and your forward movement, release the heavy, suffocating weight of guilt over what you couldn't fix, what you couldn't save, or what you couldn't control. Oh, how much of that burden we carry, don't we? We replay scenarios endlessly in our minds, agonizing over what we could have or should have said or done differently, feeling responsible for outcomes that were never truly wholly in our hands to begin with. We were never meant to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. Think about David, the shepherd boy chosen by God. Before facing the formidable Goliath, he earnestly tried to wear King Saul's impressive traditional armor. See 1 Samuel 17:38-39. It was formidable. It was what everyone expected a warrior to wear. It seemed like the logical choice. But it didn't fit him. It was too big, too heavy, too cumbersome, restricting his movement and stifling his true strength. He wept over it, metaphorically, because he realized his victory, his unique path, would look nothing like those who came before him, nothing like the conventional wisdom dictated. He had to shed that expectation, the stifling armor of others' ways and conventional wisdom, to fight his own battle with the simple yet powerful tools God had given him, a humble sling and 5 smooth stones. You simply cannot win your battle wearing someone else's armor or by trying to fix situations that God intends to fix in his own profound, miraculous way. Let go of the desperate need to control the outcome and instead focus all your energy, all your heart, on your obedience to him. And here's what most people, and I mean most people, completely overlook in these challenging seasons, the very seasons that can feel like they're tearing you apart. Allow yourself the sacred space to grieve, but grieve with a profound, unwavering hope. This isn't about suppressing your emotions, stuffing them down, or pretending to be okay when you're utterly not. Tears, Those glistening droplets of sorrow are not, in any way, a sign of weakness. Quite the opposite, in fact. They are powerful, undeniable evidence that something sacred, something profoundly important, something deeply cherished, mattered enough to you to break you open, to tenderize your heart. They are the holy conduits for deep healing, carving out sacred space for more of God's comforting presence, His anointing oil to flow into those tender, bruised places within your soul. Jesus Himself, the Son of God, wept at the tomb of Lazarus, John 11:35, demonstrating to us that even in the face of resurrection power, even with the knowledge of divine triumph, human emotion and sorrow have a sacred, necessary place in our journey. Your tears are holy. They are an essential part of your process of healing, of purification, and of becoming the magnificent whole person God created you to be. Don't rush them. Honor them. It's time, beloved one, to truly, deeply, and intentionally forgive the season itself that bruised your expectations, that seemingly shattered your meticulously crafted plans, that brought you to your knees. This isn't necessarily or solely about forgiving specific people, though that may absolutely be a crucial part of your journey later on. This is about consciously, deliberately releasing the bitterness toward the circumstances, the harsh timeline, the unexpected detours, the way things painfully unfolded that caused you so much anguish and disappointment. When we hold on to that bitterness, that simmering resentment, it's like drinking a slow-acting poison ourselves and foolishly expecting the other person or the situation to get sick. It only harms us. Consider the profound, transformative story of Joseph. He endured unimaginable betrayal at the hands of his own brothers, followed by years of unjust captivity and soul-crushing imprisonment in a foreign land. He was forgotten, accused falsely, and his entire expectations of life, of family, of his very future were completely derailed, seemingly shattered beyond repair. Yet through it all, through every dark night and every unfair accusation, God was working meticulously, faithfully behind the scenes, weaving a masterpiece. At the perfect, divine time, Joseph was miraculously raised up to a position of immense power in Egypt so that he could speak life, provision, and rescue into an entire nation, including the very family who had so grievously wronged him. Genesis 50:20 captures his profound, spirit-led understanding, an understanding born of suffering and divine perspective. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. Allow God, the master weaver, to redeem your storyline. He's the ultimate storyteller, and his narratives are always filled with unexpected turns, with redemption, and with profound beauty. Don't rush to write your own ending out of impatience, out of frustration, or out of a limited, pain-clouded perspective. Trust that he's weaving a tapestry more intricate, more purposeful, and more breathtakingly beautiful than you could ever conceive with your human mind. Now let's dig a little deeper into the subtle nuances of the heart. I want you to bravely face those buried places in your heart where disappointment has settled in, like fine dust, and over time, subtly, almost imperceptibly, morphed into a silent, binding agreement with limitation. This is that treacherous mental space where we begin to tell ourselves, I tried that, it didn't work, so I guess I'm just not meant for it. Or, with a cynical sigh, I got hurt so deeply before, so I'll never trust again, never open my heart fully. Disappointment, when left unaddressed, when allowed to fester and harden, can become a silent, insidious, binding contract with a smaller life, a constricted existence. It can lead to a quiet, corrosive resentment, not just toward others or circumstances, but tragically toward God, or even toward yourself. Invite God into those hidden, tender corners of your heart, the places you've walled off, the spaces where you've hidden your pain. Ask Him to gently, lovingly uproot what resentment has left behind, the bitterness, the cynicism, the closed-off spaces that keep joy and possibility out. He is the master healer of hearts, the divine surgeon, and he specializes in turning ashes into unparalleled beauty, mourning into dancing, and despair into hope. And just like with Joseph, what's coming next in your story, the divine plot twist, will likely utterly surprise you. It always does when God is truly in control, when his hand is guiding your steps. Okay, this is where we go even deeper, into the very heart of transformation. This is the truly transformative shift, the profound spiritual alchemy. It's time to begin to actively, purposefully, and with a heart of faith thank God for the doors he closed in your life. I know that sounds utterly counterintuitive, especially if those closed doors represent lost dreams, broken relationships, or painful, abrupt endings that left you reeling. But hear me out, truly. When God says no, when a path closes off before you, it is never ever a rejection of you as a person, of your worth or of your potential. It is always, without exception, a divine redirection towards something better, something more aligned with his perfect, expansive plan for you, something infinitely more suited to your unique design. It is often his profound protection, shielding you from paths that were not truly meant for you, or from something that would ultimately harm you, derail your true purpose, or lead you down a road of regret. He sees what you cannot see. Think about the beautiful, enduring story of Ruth, a Moabite woman who faced immense, crushing loss. She had to make the difficult, radical, almost unimaginable choice to leave behind her homeland, her culture, everything she knew and found familiar in Moab, a place that now represented famine and death. She chose to follow her mother-in-law Naomi into a foreign, unknown land, leaving behind a season of famine, both literal and spiritual, for a future that was completely uncertain. She didn't cling to the past, didn't look back at the scarcity, didn't allow herself to be paralyzed by regret. And because of that radical trust, that profound leap of faith into the unknown, she was led to Boaz, a kinsman redeemer who brought her into a season of unparalleled abundance, provision, and ultimately into the sacred lineage of King David and even Jesus himself. You cannot fully, richly experience the fullness of your Boaz season, that time of abundant blessing, of divine redemption, of new love and provision, until you stop looking back with longing at the famine of what was, at the past that can no longer sustain you. The hand that holds on to yesterday cannot grasp the gift of tomorrow. This final, profound shift requires a deliberate, conscious exchange on your part. You need to lay down your desperate human need to be understood. We all crave understanding, don't we? We want people to get us, to validate our feelings, to see our pain, to affirm our choices. And while empathy from others is deeply important and soul-nourishing, constantly needing to be understood by others or even by God in our own limited human terms can ironically keep us stuck, bound to the opinions of others or to our own rigid ideas of how things should be. Instead, pick up your divine mandate to be transformed. This is God's primary sacred assignment for you, to be changed from the inside out, to grow, to become more like him in character and spirit, to step more fully and authentically into the magnificent person he created you to be from the very beginning. This transformation often doesn't make logical sense to others, and it definitely won't always feel comfortable or understood by those around you, even those who love you deeply. But it's your primary call, your sacred purpose. This next step is going to challenge everything you thought you needed to survive and thrive. And here it is, the moment of truth, the culminating, most powerful step. Stand empty-handed and declare your trust. This means letting go of every last pretense of control, every last effort to manipulate your circumstances, every last attempt to rely on your own strength, your own limited wisdom, or your own finite resources. It's about coming before God with nothing but your bare, vulnerable willingness to obey, to trust, to surrender. It's a posture of humility and radical dependence. Remember Moses at the Red Sea, Exodus 14. He was trapped, utterly hemmed in between a formidable pursuing army of Egyptians and an impossible vast body of water. His people were utterly terrified, murmuring against him, convinced they were doomed, that their end was near. What did Moses have in his hands in that moment of impossible crisis? Only a simple staff, a shepherd's tool, and an impossible instruction from God. Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so the Israelites can go through on dry ground. The way forward, the miraculous parting of the waters, wasn't revealed until he stretched out what little he had in perfect obedience and radical trust. He didn't wait until he felt powerful enough, or until the people were united behind him, or until he had a perfect, foolproof plan. He acted with what he had, in faith, stepping into the impossible. Your miracle isn't waiting on your readiness, on your feeling of being perfectly prepared, or on your sense of being perfectly capable. No, your miracle is waiting on your release of control, your release of fear, your release of doubt. Your willingness to let go, to surrender, to stand empty-handed, actively activates God's boundless power to move on your behalf, to do the impossible. So tonight, as the day gently draws to a close, before you drift off to sleep, I want you to try something incredibly powerful, something that can shift the very atmosphere around you. Take a deep, cleansing breath, allowing it to fill your lungs, and then, with intention and belief, say this prayer out loud, letting the words sink deep, deep into your spirit, into every cell of your being. I release all fear. I release all doubt. I step into my divine purpose, and I trust that my miracle is already on its way. Say it again if you need to, allowing the profound truth of those words to resonate within you, to take root in the fertile ground of your heart. If this word, this intimate conversation we've shared, has stirred something deep within you, if it's resonated with where you are right now, speaking directly to your soul, then please, I invite you to drop a 5555 in the comments below. And as you do that, open your heart just a little wider, stretch your belief just a little further to the beautiful, impossible possibilities that God holds for you. Because the truth is, your breakthrough isn't just coming in the distant future, way down the road, as a hopeful whisper. No, your breakthrough has already begun. God has initiated it. He's already started something incredible, something new and transformative within you, and his promise, his unwavering covenant, is that he is utterly faithful to finish what he begins. So let heaven finish what he started in you. Step into it, breathe it in, it's yours.